So yesterday I spent a good part of the day cleaning. As you know, cleaning is probably the worst part about doing these jobs. There's so many bits to clean. But anyway, what I've done is I've cleaned everything, including the housings that go on the back for the input gear, and I've used the original shim in here with new bearing races. Now hopefully, you cross our fingers, that the settings should be exactly the same. I hope. Now you probably see here, I can't zoom out anymore, but I've got the transfer case on a stand, and this allows me to work at a nice level, and then I can flip it over and do the other side. So today what we're going to do, we're going to put the rear output shaft on, which I've already got built up, which is here. We've done this before, so I don't really want to go through it step by step again, but it's just new bearing, new seal, clean up all the flanges, make sure that I've run a die nut down the studs here, torque down this nut. Unfortunately with the kits, none of them come with new nuts, but I'll put this on temporary, I'll put a new one on later. New seals on the shaft for the speedo drive, and it's all nice and clean inside. And I made sure that the splines are nice and square on here. The original one was not. So what we need to do is we get into our little kit here of bits and pieces, because, wait a minute, one thing that's easy to forget is the O-rings. There are two O-rings, one's bigger than the other. The smaller one goes inside here. So we're going to fit that one now, before we forget, and it's at the top. It is a fiddly bloody thing to get in, I must admit. But take your time and don't sort of mess it up. And there you go, it's in. Now this one goes on the pin, so we'll keep that one separately. So in the kit, what do we get in the kit? We'll put that up there. We get a new locker washer, yet another collapsible spacer, and a nut. Also, this is in the ATB kit fitting kit, not just the regular fitting kit. We also get a set of selectable shims, a tube of high-low seal, and two bearings. Now we've already bought the bearings as a set, so the customer already bought the bearings as a set, so we'll put those to one side, and that's that. So we're going to keep that to put onto a shaft. Put that over there. Put these here, because at the moment, right now, we're going to put some high-low sill round here. I'm going to put some high-low sill round here, bolt this down, and then we're going to do the gear, input gear. Now, normally it's backwards. I'm working sort of opposite to the way the book says. Now I found out this was the best way, because then you're not continuously turning the casing backwards and forwards, and because it's nicely supported here, it's a joy to work on. So let me get some sealer in here, let me put the bearing in here, because this is all nicely cleaned up and raring to go, and then we'll come back. Well, now as you can see here, I've got the extension housing in. This is really important to do first, because it supports the bearing for the differential. Good. Now what I've done here, obviously I've turned it round now, but I've put the cover on without any sealer, and it's a little bit too tight, just a little bit too tight. Yeah, it's not free running, move with your fingers, but I think it's a little bit too tight. So the original shim was 3.4 millimeters. Now in here I've got a 3.35 millimeter, and that's just nice. It's got a little bit resistance, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And just some tiny taps. You see, it's really nice now. It's got a little bit of preload on it, but not too much. That's really nice. I like that. There is a very difficult to actually set up. You're supposed to add this, take this away and do that, but I found out because I've got the press and some incremental shims in boxes here, I can actually work them out and just feel what they should be like. Because remember, these are new bearings, so they're going to settle down as well. So now we can box this piece up and then flip it over. Right, now we've got the transfer case set upside down. Gear's nice, I'm happy with that. We've good access to everything now. Sort of inside you can check if there's any like sealers come through the bolt, so now is a good time to take it off. One other little top tip that I like to do, I don't know if we can see it from where you are, but down here the shaft runs for the high and low selector. Have I got one here? Where's it gone? Oh, it's here. So this is the high and low selector. What can happen is you can get silicone build-up on the tube where it, you know, squidges inside here. So it's a good idea to put that inside the tube before you clean it all up and make sure it moves, because I got caught out with one of those and it caught some silicone when it had dried, which was a sort of unfortunate. But it was making the diff lock, the high and low selector kind of stiff. So just check on that first. Now what we're going to do now, I'm going to push this out to one side, if we can, without pushing it off the bench. We'll start to assemble the ATB. Now that's really easy, because we don't have to take it to pieces or anything like that. Now there might be a few bits of styrofoam on there from the packaging, polystyrene chips. So we're going to make sure it's clear of those. There we go. It is a nice piece of work. If I could afford to do these with every single transfer case, it would solve an awful lot of problems from clunking and making noises and things like that. Have we got a shaft here that we can actually test? My bench has got a warp in it now from heating. Just wait a minute. So here's a couple of shafts. Put them in the right way around. Ooh. There is no play on that whatsoever. There's nothing. So we've made sure that the spline, I've changed this spline shaft. This isn't the actual one, the other one was a bit worn. But make sure all your splines are nice and square, because if it's been banging around in a knackered diff, it's not going to help, is it? Yeah, that's going to be a really nice tight drive line. Ooh, I can't wait. It doesn't take much to impress me on a Saturday morning. Right, let's get some gears. So, now's the time to assemble this unit. I'll just put a little bit of oil on there to get a head start, but just a little word of warning, there's two types of unit here. There's type A and type B. This is a type B for the larger splines, and let me find the gear. The gears with the smaller teeth here. This is what causes some confusion when you're changing ratios, so just be careful of that. Get them all as a matching set, because otherwise none of it will fit together. This is why when we change early gearboxes to 1.3s, they get kind of expensive, because it needs these later gears in. You've got to change this one, the low range, because it's got the narrow teeth in here. If you had the wider teeth in, it wouldn't go into low range. So we're going to fit that. That fits nice. The hubs are sometimes tricky to fit. It doesn't matter which way around these go, that's a nice thing. Oh, lovely fit. Now you can see there, you can see how it locks together. Now if you had the big teeth on here, it wouldn't work. Now you want to ask me what the big teeth look like, aren't you? Oh, no. These are the big teeth. You see, it's only a sort of a millimetre wider, where it's enough to bugger the job up. Right, where were we? So now we'll put some oil on this hub. here, the sleeve inside that gear. Make sure your oil's nicely circulated. Drop that on. Nice fit. That works. So the next thing we're going to do is press the bearings on. It's kind of simple, isn't it? Right, I've assembled this. I've made sure all the gears are nice and free. There's no play in that at all. It's just exactly as it was when it came out of the factory, I hope. A couple of things to notice. I have tabbed over the locking washer here. Take note, there is a thick side here and a thin side. The thin side goes to the top where you tab it over. You're supposed to only use these once. I've used them twice because they're machined in a different place. That's only on cheap jobs. Now, be careful. Sometimes when you have got a damaged gear on here, you have to sort of push the bearing on and make sure all this is nice and free. I did have one once where we changed a gear for a new gear and it was tight. And what we had to do was go down again to JP's machine shop, and he machined the flat surface where the gear was just by maybe 1/1000 or 1.5 thousandths of an inch, so that it was free to move. Otherwise it would be tight and could burn out something. Anyway, that's that done. Now we're going to clean up this selector fork, and then we can start to put this together.